right, we are back here live from the McCall Zone here at McCall 23. The sights and sounds are continuing throughout the day. It has been awesome to meet with so many educators coming through, talking both on camera or sometimes just popping in the background, just coming in to say hi. If you're out there listening, watching, stop up to the McCall Zone, stop in, say hi, see some of these great solution providers, but don't forget all of the great sessions. And our next presenter, I think, had 5 sessions over the 3 days. She has 3 left to do, so I can't wait to hear about them, as well as all sorts of amazing projects that she's here to support you. So welcome to the show, Michelle Emerson, all the way from Austin, Texas.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm a little cold here, but I'm surviving.
Yes, I can imagine. It's a little bit warmer down there in Texas. Detroit, it's not so much.
Yeah.
So for those of you out there who don't know your work or don't know your journey into education, share who you are and about your work.
Yeah, so my name is Michelle Emerson, but online I'm better known as Pocketful of Primary. I taught 4th grade and 2nd grade for 7 years, and during that time I also served as my school's e-coach. So I help the other teachers in my building integrate technology in their instruction. And more recently, I have shifted out of the classroom and I am now speaking full-time, presenting PD for teachers. But during that time, I've also started a YouTube channel where I support teachers with technology tutorials and other helpful videos, tips, and tricks. And I also have a podcast called Teaching to the Top that focuses on time management, organization, and productivity. That's where the top comes in. And yeah, I think that about covers it.
Oh, that is wonderful. So she talked about her podcast and her website and all those great things. So down below is the website. You can check it out. Talked about, and just in a very short time went on there and saw all these templates that you can have, the giveaways. So for those individuals visiting your website, tell them what they'd see.
Yeah, so my website is almost like my home base. From there, you can find all of my YouTube videos. But as you mentioned, I do have a ton of freebies on there. I really like to provide resources that are templates and can be adapted for multiple subject areas, multiple grade levels. So if you're looking for whether it's Google Sheets templates, Google Slides templates, I have a bunch on there to get started. And a lot of them have tutorial videos on YouTube that show you exactly how to use them.
And you ventured into another project, a book that you can learn about at your website, which is scrolling down the bottom, or you can pre-order. First Class Teaching, 10 Lessons You Didn't Learn in College. Now, I do some work with some college students now at Stonehill, and they're going to be into the teaching profession, so this is obviously something we're going to get for them. For others, what is the book about?
Yeah, so First Class Teaching is essentially the book I wish I had as a first-year teacher, because I struggled a lot to transition from college to the classroom, because in college you learn a lot about ideals and these different things in textbooks that work, but when you get into the real classroom, they're not always applicable, and a lot of teachers struggle with that. So this book is focused on all those things that I learned within my first few years of teaching that I wish I had known my first year. Each chapter has a personal story, some funny, some heartwarming, but I'm very vulnerable in the group or in the book about the mistakes that I made. And then I give the strategies and different tips and tricks that can help you overcome those challenges and make them easier.
I like it. And you are talking about some of that here. You had 2 sessions already, lights, camera, engagement, and then you had one really focused on Google Slides and how to empower students. And you have 3 more. So tell us about the presentations coming up.
Yeah, so all of these sessions fall under this umbrella of putting the tech in TEACH. So TEACH stands for Teach, Engage, Assess, Collaborate, and Make Learning Hands-On. I'm a big advocate for not always trying to just learn new websites, new apps, new tech tools, but rather using the ones you already know in an innovative way. That way it's less stress on you and on your students, because you don't have to learn a new platform. You can use the tools you already know, but just use them in creative ways. So coming up, I have a session on Google Forms and 3 different ways to use them with students that you may not have been familiar with, as well as Google Sheets. And then finally, I have one on Padlet, and I'm taking the attendees through how to use Padlet in order to teach, engage, assess, collaborate, and make learning hands-on.
Awesome. So is this your first time at McCall?
This is, yes. And I feel a little embarrassed because I kept pronouncing it MACUL, and then I learned it's called McCall, and I had no idea.
Yeah, well, for someone, I work in Massachusetts, and I'm in an organization, MASCD, so I wouldn't call it McCad, but they call it McCall, so I learned that early on as well. So you have been venturing into this consulting space, events, doing professional development. What do you take away from an event like this?
Yeah, so I discovered through my YouTube channel that I really loved teaching teachers and being able to use the knowledge that I have, even though it doesn't seem revolutionary. I've learned that sometimes your ordinary is someone else's extraordinary. So something that's very simple to you may be brand new to someone else. So I love to be able to share the things that I've learned and be able to make other educators' lives easier, but also be able to learn from others. I love dropping into other sessions, especially now as I'm doing more speaking. I love to see how other people run their presentations. It's just like how teachers like to observe how other teachers teach and be able to take away some of those strategies and mannerisms that they use.
So one of the things that jumped out to me with your the name of Pocket of Primary, I was an elementary school principal, and a lot of times I've heard our teachers say, well, the kids are too young, or they're going to break it. So what is your message to those educators, those primary educators who are a little hesitant to go down that road?
So it's funny because when I picked the name Pocketful of Primary, I originally only envisioned myself teaching primary grades. And then I fell in love with upper elementary as I kind of stepped out of my comfort zone. I first got offered a job for fourth grade and I was terrified, but I told myself I would try it and I ended up loving it. So sometimes being willing just to take that little step out of your comfort zone. You can always go back into your comfort zone if it doesn't work out. But I think just taking it one step at a time and being willing to make those steps, even when it feels uncomfortable, can sometimes lead to some of the greatest results.
So you mentioned very quickly about the podcast that you do. So for those who visit your website, which is the information below, and tune into the podcast, what are some of the topics you talk about? What is like the real theme of your show?
Yeah, so Teaching to the Top is a podcast I host with my best friend, Bridget. She teaches in central Pennsylvania, and we focus on time management, organization, and productivity for teachers. As people who have been teaching but also running businesses on the side, we would always get asked, how do you do it all? And we've realized we don't. We're just really good at managing our time and creating these systems that allow us to work only contract hours in the classroom and be able to focus our free time on these other ventures. So in the podcast, we kind of break down some of the strategies that we've learned, and we allow listeners to write in with what we call time-sucking hurdles, those things that are really taking away a lot of their time, and we kind of offer solutions for those.
Wonderful. So how have you liked Detroit so far? I mean, I've been here a day, so it's been fun.
Listen, I am most excited to try Detroit-style pizza because that has always been my favorite kind of pizza, and I've never had it in Detroit, so I feel like the time is now. That is my reward when all of this is over, but it's beautiful. I've heard I've got to come back in the summer because it's really, really nice.
So what's Detroit pizza? I've heard Chicago, I've heard New York. Detroit's a new one for me.
Yeah, so Detroit-style pizza, it's a square pan, and they bake cheese into the crust. So it's thicker, but it's not like a deep dish, but the crust itself is kind of thick. It's got cheese baked in, and it's square, and it's just delicious.
That's amazing. Now, for someone who is a health conscious as you are now a competitive power lifter. Is that correct?
Yes.
How do you keep that regimen of working out, working, writing, and all of this work-life balance? How do you make that happen?
So I actually write about this in my book. I think everyone has to find what I call their non-negotiables, those things that they are not willing to budge on, no matter how busy they are, no matter what's going on. Those are the things that they refuse to let go of. And for me, that has always been the gym and getting my workouts in. And it helps that it's something that I enjoy. So I don't dread doing it. I look forward to it. But even after a long day of teaching or a long day of writing, I always look forward to the gym as like my stress relief. And I just have those routines. So I don't even think about it. I just show up at the gym and do it because it's part of my identity as a power lifter.
That's amazing. And I think for those listeners seeing the work that you do, you know, we were talking before, that's not necessarily a sport that women go into. So what brought you into that?
Yeah, so I came from a history of running, which I loved, but I got injured a lot. And my now husband, but at the time he was my boyfriend, he would go to the gym and lift, and I would go run on the treadmill. And he slowly got me to start with some of the machines and then move on to some of the free weights. And I fell in love with it because it's so empowering to see yourself get stronger, especially as a female. And just know, anyone who's listening, you're not going to get like big and bulky or anything like that. I truly think the strength training is one of the best things that you can do for your body and your health.
I like it. And speaking of stronger, like the podcast is called Stronger Together, I write a lot about collaboration. And now that you've moved out of the realm of teaching and into the consulting and supporting, how do you ensure there's still collaboration?
Yeah, that was a nice transition there, right?
You like
We didn't
that?
even plan that. So personally, I'm constantly sharing all of the content that I have learned through my YouTube channel, my podcast, my website, all of those things. But I always invite people to comment and email me. So I'm constantly connecting with other educators. And when I come to events like this, I love getting to connect with other people and just hear about their experience. And it makes you realize how different, but yet similar we all are, and how we can use that knowledge that we have to be able to help others.
Awesome. Well, I hope you have a great rest of your stay here. Stay warm. You have 3 sessions to go. If you haven't had an opportunity to see Michelle speak, go through the app, look for the sessions. You have some today, you have some tomorrow, and then you head back to Austin.
Yes.
And if you happen to not be here or don't get a chance to see a session, make sure to visit the website, see the podcast, the YouTube channel as well. What do you do on the YouTube channel?
So I put out a video every single Friday. I focus a lot on like tech tutorials for teachers, but also just kind of some organization content, productivity content similar to the podcast, but mostly those technology tutorials. You'll find the playlist on my YouTube channel with them.
So much to unpack. So you can't cover it all in 12 minutes, but for you, you can discover all the work on Instagram, which is at Pocket of Primary, and then the website down here. So Michelle, thanks for jumping on. Continued success, and I look forward to learning from all that you do.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
And for all of you listening, watching, we're going to be here all day till about 3. Then I have a session at 4 o'clock, moving from consumption to creation. Make sure to check that out, or any of the amazing sessions throughout the rest of the day today and tomorrow. Have a great day. We'll see you live soon in about 15 minutes or so.